Okay, for your second one, obviously we've got a lot more thinners and a lot less paint, so it's basically the other way around, so it's about 2/3 thinners to 1/3 paint. Now this will be very, very wet, so it will spray a lot easier, and what this will do is give us a nice finish to our white work. Okay, so then by popping that down, check our flow, make sure you're happy, make sure you clean the nib off on the front of your prong so you've got no build-up occurring down the end there. Just like that. Okay, then you can come back with the Vixen, okay, and just give this a light spray over. As you can hear, it pours out of this now. And what this will do is give us a nice thick white coat, and it will give us a nice glossy finish. Okay, so you can just pop round. And we're going to do these areas of the actual struts, because it's thinner paint now, it will allow some of it to show through. But hopefully what this will do will give us a nicer finish. Everywhere, down in those intakes. As you can see, it's a pearl white, a very nice thick white colour. Okay, stop there, don't go over the top with it because we don't want any runs occurring and things like that. We're just making sure we're all over the front, down in those wells are all nice. Okay, so we can do the same for the wings now. We can go around, second coat onto these tail planes, things like that. So this will give us our nice satin finish to our paintwork. So we're going to carry on with this now, so we can go on and we can do everything like the geared doors, everything that's going to be needed to be painted white we'll do now. So there we go, there's our very white, the camera can pick up, white and white, not a good idea. But you can see, it's very, very smooth paint. Don't take any notice of the lumps and bumps, because hopefully that is our nice rub areas underneath. The only thing I might have done, slightly overdone it, some of these areas with the white down here, because the panel lines are looking a little bit faded. But fear not, because if you have overdone them, you can always just put in one little scribe line in through the paint and put the wash over the top of it. Now that's all very nice being lovely and white and very nice in general, but what we want to do is grime it up a bit. So the quickest and easiest way to do that is to do it all at the same stage. So what we're going to do is, when we do other colours you'll see in a moment, we'll bleach and darken. We're going to do the same with the white. So what we're going to do, start off with a colour cup of paint. So what we're going to do, start with thinners. So taking here, we've just got probably around about 50% thinners of any paint work that's going to go in there. So then we're just going to add a drop of white, okay, as we'd expect. Now it's a little bit thin because we want it to blend. We don't want thick paint, we're not trying to cover now, we're trying to make a sort of weathering pattern. So that's in there now, so we'll just give that a mix to start itself going. Okay, just around there. Now what we're going to do is take, just move that out of the way, we're just going to take here a tiny bit of XF54 grey. When we say tiny bit, we really mean this, because we're trying to just grime it up. We're going to use grey, so we've just got a little bit on the brush here, and we'll mix that into the paintwork, give it a good old mix through. So hopefully now it will come out as grimy white, rather than being pure brilliant white. So then what we'll do, we'll just face this towards me. So we're just going to come in, blow through. Okay, then what we're going to do is just pick out panel line areas. So we're just going to run around and do the actual panel lines themselves onto this. So, but you're not probably going to see it happen. So it's one of those things, hopefully you can see as a subtle effect rather than a full on. So we're going to go around excess panels with it, anywhere where there will be a line. Right way over here, perhaps a little bit more down these back areas. Flip it over. Now the chances are you won't be able to see this on camera.
Okay, so it'll be one of those you sort of trust me with here. Okay, so pop him in. But you're doing everything, even though you can't particularly see it, which might sound a little bit odd. But it's sort of one of those, you know, trust me moments with this. So we just do round this front one again. Just round here. And now we're just going to pick out odd little squiggles and squirts, random type things. Bit down the middle here. And these real ones. Centre panel. Bit deeper, everything else like that. Now we're going to have to do the same on the doors and any lower surface, but I'm not sure how well the camera is actually going to pick that up. It seems to be bleaching out a little bit on this one. Perhaps this one over here, you can sort of see a tonal difference in that. So what we're trying to do, slightly darken it down. So what we're going to do, we'll do it right now. We've got the dye breakdown here. We're going to do all over in this colour. That's your air brake. Right the way over. And then we're going to do the same on things like fuel tanks. So we're going to pick out the panel line, that big join, the area around the top, a couple of squirts just everywhere. And on the other one, some little drizzle marks, as I call them, just to grind them up. And as I said, the doors are quite important you do as well, otherwise they're going to be massively different. But what I tend to do is spray the entire of the door. I don't pick out a particular colour of it, just do the entire thing, because they always tend to get dirty and grubby anyway. Doors, last one. And then what we're going to do is just add a tiny bit more grey into the mix again. So again, same amount, touch on the end of the brush, goes in, and we give it a rub around. And we're going to repeat this a few times. So you can probably see already, we're not white down here in the colour cut, we're more like grey than we certainly are white. But there again, we'll turn it around this way this time. We'll come back straight in, blow through everything we've got, and we're going to go exactly everywhere we sort of did before, and then some areas we won't know. So perhaps you've done a particular panel, something else like that. You know, this time don't go all the way across. So you leave natural areas where you've got the dark and light. So all we're trying to do now is grind this up, and what you should start to see, it starts to come to life with it. But as you said, we're not trying to flood everything. The only thing you do, any areas where it's particularly grimy, you might be able to see it starting to happen under here. I know we're a bit of trouble with the light on that camera, but generally we're just trying to grime up rather than go down. So this one we're just making a bit of a pass over the top, so we're getting a natural grime effect going on. We go back, we do everywhere again. So if we just pick up on these doors, and we're just feathering in, perhaps over access hatches. And then right the way over, just a bit of a blowdown just to get this type of effect on these doors, these rear panels especially. So we'll just do some blow marks. So perhaps it just shows having a little bit more weathering on there. And as I said, back down through the fuel, but again, not many places this time, very light. Just trying to give grime into these areas. And what you're trying to do is just build up layers of grime and dirt onto this, because don't forget you can come back in a moment and go back in with the white to do touch-up areas. So perhaps it's had various touch-ups and things like that. But certainly for our last pass, what we'll do, we'll just do another bit of grey going in here. And don't forget, as this is going on, we're using less and less white paint into this, so it's more and more getting darker. But what we want to do is just thin this down a little bit more. So we just add a few drops of thinners in this because we want it to blend, not to speckle or give anything, and this will stop it from covering too much. So if you do go overboard, it's not like a giant, oh no, what have I done? So again, we're just coming up, blow through. You can see it quite clearly now, it's almost light grey coming through this. Okay, this one we're going to point away from us so we can shoot around. So we do just plucking out little areas. Look down the back. Just around. And we're shooting it away and back as if it's direction of airflow. As if it's grind building out. And then last pass, we're just going to shoot it over to blend in. That way if you've got any sticky bits, it will blow them and blend them all through nicely as well. But there we go, this gives us our thick grimy type of white without being too over the top and blends through. But again, as soon as we get in there with a wash, we should be absolutely fine. It should give us a very nice look to it all. So we've got to do the same everywhere again, just to blend through. So we said direction of airflow. With this one we know it goes this way more, so we're just pulling them off at the back. Pass all over just to grind down and give it a nice type of shading to all of this as we make our way through. Okay, so we're just finishing masking up tailplane there. So we've gone around now, masked everything up on the underside. So as you can see, pretty much a lot of yellow. We've got these leading edges all come forward and everything else. Now one thing you might want to look at, things like this you might have, I've certainly done it, is this fingerprint business. This is where these sponges come into their own, because you can literally sand out all the lumps, bumps, all the nasties, and you can wet them as well to get a nice wet and dry finish. Just be careful though when you're doing it, because it's acrylic paint, it does tend to roll up into little balls, and then again can get into your paintwork and affect it. Now I know it's pretty hard to see on here, but we had it happen a lot. I've had a big fingerprint here which we've taken out, we've gone in, sanded it out totally to give us a better finish, but you see it looks very dusty all over. That's because we've got these multiple coats going on, and this bits of texture that we've put down to give us weathering a little bit further on are getting caught up in it all now, so don't take too much notice of that. No problems at all anywhere on these areas as long as they're all smooth. So we just sand this one out again. So we're all showing very nicely as we go through. As I said, we've gone along masked up. You've got to do the leading edges on these naval aircraft. The rear one's a little bit thicker than the front one. Just remember that as you make your right the way through and everything else. The tricky one to mask is these sponson rear forks at the end. That's quite tricky to do to get into the same length. But again, if you're using a natural mark, as I tried to do down here, you can go up to them quite well. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about is the air intakes down here, because we haven't actually mask them up, which I don't know, I think I might have to. I'm going to try and do it without it, and then what we can do is pop in afterwards with a little bit of white just to tidy them up. But in theory, if you've got the time, cut out a template to go in there and stick in, might be quite a nice little touch. Anyway, I'm going to try and avoid it and then paint it by hand afterwards. So, next choice, colours. Lots of everybody's around at the moment. If you're going to do the Humbrol call out for this, I think they're calling it is 123, which is the extra dark sea grey. If you're looking for other things on the market, Tamiya, the closest thing you're going to get to it really is Gunship Grey XF24. The other option, obviously, you can do it down the guns range, again, which is Gunship Grey, which is Federal Standard 36118-305. Or the other option, obviously, you can go through it, is for their match route, which is 333H333, which is the match for BS 381. Now, it's one of those things, we're going to take our time and do multiple textures as we work our way through. Sometimes it's easier to do pre-shading as you go through. We're avoiding it on this one because with white it tends to come through too stark, and on dark colours like this is going to be quite a dark colour on top, it's very hard to see it. So we'll be using a process like we did on the other side where we're bleaching and dirtying and things like that. So exactly the same as we did before. So we're going to start with the extra dark sea grey, so we'll give this a good old mix. Exactly the same as we've done the others. So for this first shoot, it's going to be a little bit wetter than normal, so probably 2/3 thinners to paint going in here. So we want quite a nice dollop. So about 2/3 thinners to 1/3 paint. Okay, just pop the cover on this. Okay, usual thing, a bit of a mix up. Doesn't matter if you've got any white on your brush, because you're going to need to lighten it anyway. Okay, it's the standard 0.2 needle in this, I should say. Okay, right, so then all we're going to do is just check our flow. Happy how that's coming through, and literally we're going to cover everywhere, but be a little bit careful with it as you go through. Okay, and just try and keep it smooth movements. As we're going over. Okay, I'm not going to shoot it down into those joins, the wing joins. But we're certainly coming up here around the back. Across the tails. So just deflecting your angles when you get near things like edges like that, you can just deflect away. Okay, now we are using a different paint here, so just be aware of that for your drying times and so forth and so on. So we just do down the back of these threads. Remember to always do your edges. So tops, backs, sides, as you're making your way through the painting. Now it looks quite dark, it looks very purpley to be honest, but don't worry too much because we are going to come back and be shooting multitudes of other colours in here. So I'm shooting across these air intakes so we don't fill them up too much, but obviously doing enough to get to the front end. Okay, so just keep having a good look around it, making sure you're getting in all those areas. Flip over. Okay, these ones down the back. It's always a bit tricky when you've got shadowing like we've got this going on. Okay, nice little run over the top, and what we do, we'll stop there so we've got somewhere to hold on to it. Okay, so what we're going to do is just stick him up on his edge up the top there, and then we've got to do things like leading edge of the rear wing. So we've got to do the bottom half. So we'll start on the bottom. Okay, then we can place it down out the way for a moment, and then obviously we've got to do these wings. So same thing, we'll do the bottoms first. This blade you've got, the fence, make sure you get around both sides of that. Okay, and then you can just work it over the top. Again, just try and keep it nice and smooth. Don't worry about piling in colour yet because we're going to be coming back and doing lots and lots to this one. So all we're trying to do is just grab the back end. So just keep going around, get yourself a base colour down. When you're all happy, make sure you do leading edges of your wings, trailing edges as well. Just like that. We're going to leave them all off to one side to dry off, totally dry off, and then what we can do, we can come back, do the other halves of them as required, and then certainly what we can do then is start doing our bleaching process as we're working the way through everything. Okay, so we're just going in with the thinners again. So this is using Gunship Grey, which, to be honest, I don't think is that good a match for Gunsy stuff. Far prefer the other. But what we're going to do now is flow through. We're just going to add some little weathering. So what we're going to do for the minute, we're going to bleach out centres of panels. Let me just fold these back a bit. We're still a little bit wet around the front. So what we're going to do is literally just pop in now and just going to bleach out the middles. So we're not trying to change anything here. We're not doing much. We're literally just centres of panels. Just trying to lighten perhaps a little as we make our way through. Tops down here. We're just trying to affect the colour of it, and as you see, just lighten out just a little bit, and by very little amounts of paint and keep moving, we should be able to achieve what we're after. Just a little hints of, so we're just doing up and down movements because we're vertical areas, little bits going around on the tail. Okay, because we're going to bleach all in, just it's difficult to get close and shoot across these tails as well. Just make sure your nozzle's nice and clear. Okay, little swipes of colour going down now just to lighten it off, to blend through. Okay, round this front end, we're just trying to pick out little bleachy bits. So we're on top. So now we're just moving back in and just hanging around a little longer on these centres of panels. Just putting down a bit more paint than we did on the first pass. Okay. So we're just trying to lighten it all up now. It's a bit difficult because it's quite glossy, but hopefully you'll get what we're getting. We'll just do this side. So I think the nice up and down movements. Just trying to break it all up. And that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to take your eye away. If I just turn the fan off a bit. We were getting a bit smoky earlier. But you can see we're just trying to break it up a little bit. We're not trying to do too much. Okay. But these top areas will get walkways and things are going to be a lot lighter than others around, okay? So they'll get a lot more of this and all effect. And all I do, I sort of do this tapping up and down business so it keeps it random. Because as soon as you get a bit predictable with this, it tends to look a bit naff. Okay, and especially when you're doing with things that are a boom, i.e., you know, tail booms, just keep it up and downy, keep it bouncing along, and then that way you can hope that it'll give that type of effect as if it's got stuff running down it. So we're just going around the front, a little bit careful because it's still a little bit wet around the front here. Okay. But the tops and fronts of these sponsons are going to get quite a bit there. But hopefully, if we put one next to the other, you can see what we're trying to get. Plain blue on the wing versus being everything else. So hopefully you can see those two stand out a little bit. Okay, just like it. Now to me, this colour is a little bit almost purple. Now it could be the light here. I've got direct sunlight coming in over my right hand shoulder, which is playing havoc with the camera today. But it just looks a little bit, so the more we can do of this gunship colour over, we'll just blow it down a little bit. So what we're going to do is just a couple of little passes right over the top here. Just trying to knock it back, make sure you get down the sides. Just like so. So we're happy with that. We'll leave that to one side. Now we have got to do the underside, but we'll do that in a minute. But we've got to do just the same thing with these wings as well. So we just move them over a minute. Okay, so same thing again. We're just going to, not like that, too quick, okay. But just randomising these centres, bouncing it. Some areas get more, some areas get less, okay? And this is all we're trying to do, just mottle it down, give it that sort of more textured look, because this aircraft's got so many flat surfaces, it will look like a brick. So again, this one here, we're going to bounce it. And you're not just bouncing left and right, you're bouncing up and down. As you go through it all, just like that, but it gives us that texture. Okay, now don't forget the undersides as well, because otherwise they're going to look like painted lines on the bottom. So things again, bounce it along. And don't forget, we've got a bit of a surprise to this with the old weathering. Now if you wanted to, because obviously this is on a wing fold, you could do a couple of downward patterns. So if I stick this up here, okay, we are assuming it's going to be down, so this could have a little run going down. And all we do, we cause this shape which makes it look like we've got water perhaps running off of this over time. Just like so. And this is where you're using your artistic license. Don't be frightened of it. You know, just think of new shapes as you go around. Try and keep it round. Like here, I'm going to do little T shapes. You know, the bouncing one is good for random. But it's just a finite balance between bouncing and keeping light. So this, we're just going to put some over, right the way over, and over this one, just to blend it down, and it will just bleach it all in. And if it's looking a little bit too patchy, it will just hopefully balance it out. So we just got to do the same on the inside. We do some of these downers. Just like so, okay. And that's really it. So then you might want to come along and you think, okay, we just do these underside just to bleach them in, keep it looking nice, and then you can pick out certain areas and perhaps think, right, okay, we're going to put a bit of a mystery lines coming down here. As you're working your way round, put it down here. Okay, it just adds to the realism effect. Okay, and by keeping it as random as you can, you'll be alright. Also, remember the important rule, right? There's no straight lines in nature, so water does not flow in a straight line and things like that. So just every now and again, put some squiggles and lines in, and it will literally just help break up people's opinion of how it is. And remember, if it's looking a bit bad, just overcoat just to blend through, and then hopefully it will all come together at the end, as best made plans do. So just give this a bit more over. Okay, there we go. So that I am happy with. So now don't forget, you can come back now if you wanted to with the original colour, pop some of them if you've overdone it, you can change the colour and tone it, but at this point is one of those points where I'm going to say I'm going to stop right there. I don't want to go any further ahead with this one, because otherwise I'm in the risk of, you know, really sort of making a mess of it and things coming apart and stuff like that. So we're going to leave it right there, let it dry for a good couple of hours, then we can unmask it and see exactly what we got before we move on with the weathering.